The following is a special video presentation of the Hennepin County Library.
Hello, welcome to A Discussion With. I'm Mary Lamp, and my guest today is Dr. Alan Schoen, author of Love, Miracles, and Animal Healing. Dr. Schoen is a graduate of the Cornell School of Veterinary Medicine, but he has studied and practiced alternative forms of medical care for his clients. And welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
These alternative forms of veterinary medicine, would you describe and discuss the different aspects of alternative care?
Sure. Everyone has a different definition or feeling about what alternative is, okay? The term even is in question. Some people call it alternative because it's an alternative to drugs and surgery. Other people use the term complementary, that it isn't an alternative, it's a complementary. These are complementary therapies that complement medicine and surgery. Other people will term it holistic. Okay, my attitude, I practice conventional veterinary medicine for over 10 years. I have a master's in neurophysiology, and I was very left-brain, believing this was all there was. And then over the years, I felt somewhat frustrated with seeing so many animals that I was doing everything modern medicine could offer, and there was nothing more we could do, and they were either dying or living in pain or living with their disease. And that's when I started exploring other options or alternatives. These alternatives include acupuncture, herbs, homeopathy, Chinese herbs, American herbs, Indian herbs, massage, chiropractic care, as well as using love and the human-animal bond as an integral part of the healing. So to me, I use the word holistic to encompass the whole picture. You take the best of all worlds, and that sometimes includes surgery or medicine. Okay, if one form of medicine had all the answers, you wouldn't need any other forms. So each one has its indications and its limitations. And to me, we should look at the individual animal in their environment with their animal companion, their owner, and see what is the best program for this individual animal. And so to me, that's alternative or a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm. So they're not really alternatives, they are components of a larger approach.
Correct.
Okay. Do you find that pet owners whose animal companions are treated with alternative forms of medicine successfully, do they think about that when they need medical care themselves?
That happens all the time. My practice now is limited to just alternative or complementary medicine. And so people come to me looking for just that. And oftentimes there are referrals from other veterinarians, and the client will come in and say, you know, I have to say I don't believe in this at all, you know, but there's nothing that regular medicine can do, and I love my animal, so I'm willing to give it a try. And when they see it working, within a few treatments, say with acupuncture or something, they say, could you recommend someone for me? Or they'll ask, do you do people? And I say, no, I only, you know, only if you bark or whinny, you know. But so it's not uncommon, and it's actually very typical. As soon as the therapies are working, they're looking for someone to help themselves or their other family members or friends who they know have a problem that doesn't respond to regular medicine.
Huh. Well, I've often thought that a veterinarian is probably the most compatible medical person for people, because they are intuitive. They have to deal with their patients and study them. And I've often thought I'd like one myself. So.
Oh, all my clients are always asking me to treat them. I say,
yes.
Only a few friends and a few enemies, depending upon the point.
Okay. Let's talk about quality time. Busy people today always speak of spending quality time with their children. can the same concept be applied to our animal companions? Should we be providing quality time if we can?
That's very important for both. You know, the healing that I talk about in the book goes back and forth both ways. There are stories in the book about how animals help us heal, and there's stories about how we help them heal, and about how animals help each other heal. So that quality time is essential for the healing, the quieting down, the just quiet time with your pet, for the love to be going back and forth. It's you know, the classic, you know, saying of give and you shall receive. And if you're giving love, you're receiving it. And time, even if you're just sitting and watching TV, you can spend time massaging your pet at that time. They'll relax, you'll relax. There are certain intangibles in healing that you experience that we can't put labels on, we can't do double-blind documented studies, but that you feel that healing energy going back and forth when you're touching. There's a whole chapter on touching, and the touch of endearment, the touch of caring, and what that does, just holding and touching another loving, living being. And we have an example, I guess, George here, of quite a loving, living being. Maybe we can bring George over. And hi, George.
Hi, George.
George, come here. Well, oh, we can.
George.
Hi, George. All right, here. George wants to stay with his owner because he loves her so much. But even, you know, as we're watching TV, and maybe Isabel, you can come over as the happy owner and sit with. So, someone like George loves his brushing, Isabel says, and that actually is a form of massage. It's not as good as just actually the physical hands-on touching and the energy there, but you can massage their ears. Dogs love, and cats, they love their ears massaged. There are points on the head that are very calming. There are also therapeutic things, like when I treat a dog, say, for hip dysplasia or arthritis, and I'll be doing some acupuncture and different supplements that I recommend, but I'll also teach my clients how they can massage different points around the hip that are described in their diagrams in the book that can help potentiate the acupuncture in between treatments, okay? And there are points right around the hip that you can massage to relax the muscles. It helps increase the circulation to the muscles and to the joint, and it relaxes the spasms around the arthritic areas, as well as if they have back problems or anything. So you can use massage therapeutically to help as an adjunct to everything else you use in helping the animal heal, but also just as a time to be together. Just as a time of sharing the love. And, you know, anyone who pets an animal knows how much you calm down when you're petting the animal. And there are certain unconscious, subconscious things that go back thousands of years, the calming effect that we have with our animals. So where George was so rambunctious before, and now he's calmed down, he goes, oh, this isn't so bad, I can sit up here. So George is a happy camper now. And this is a very important time for us with our pets. Okay, George, you can go back to Mom. There we go.
You have not met George before.
No,
right?
I never met George before.
But he seemed to really enjoy that. You also noted in your book a number of cases of animals that were stressed by the circumstances of their human companions' lives. What can be done by humans to relieve or deflect the sort of stress that animals experience when life is real?
Yeah. There are different stories I go through in the book, like with people going through a divorce and the stress on their dog. And actually that can be, if they're conscious and aware of that, it can be a real healing time for them too, because instead of, if they're seeing their pet stressed, instead of continuing the stress, that can be a reminder for them. That can be a wake-up call for them to say, hey, wait a minute, my pet is stressed. That's just my mirror you know, because oftentimes our animals are our mirrors, and sit there and just pet them, and then you'll calm down, they'll calm down, and again, you'll be getting the love that you're not getting from the stress of whatever event, whether it be a divorce or child abuse, or, you know, families not getting along, or any stresses that we have so many in our lives these days. Taking that time and having the stress on the animal be a reminder for us that we need to heal ourselves as well as them is a great reminder.
Animals seem to relate very strongly to you in those situations when you are in contact with them and trying consciously to have a soothing effect, I think.
You see that all the time. You know, one of my clients was just telling me how when she went into the hospital, her cat just carried on the whole time. When she came back from the hospital after surgery, that cat was like Velcro and did not leave her side, whether it went into the shower, the bath, the kitchen, anywhere. That cat never left her side and just purred and gave her that energy. And these are some of the, again, intangible things that we talk about, the many different deeper levels of communication and bonding that occur between us and our animal buddies that are in contact with us all the time. They communicate such much deeper levels than English that all we have to do, they want to communicate with us. We just have to remember that there are these other levels. And one of those deepest levels is just pure love. And that's what they're telling us. They're offering us just pure love and support, where so many people offer it to you conditionally. They're giving you this unconditional love, and somehow, some way, they know just when you need it, and they're there for you.
I think that's true. Most of us have a hard time dealing with serious illness in our pets and, of course, the inevitable outcome of aging. What can we do to help us deal with these sorts of things, not only for the animal, but for ourselves?
Well, I think there are two concepts here. One is, my attitude is focus on life, not focus on death. And I have a lot of older animals come to me and people say, when do you know when they're ready to go? If we have to put them to sleep, I wish they would just go on their own. This is such a difficult decision. All these things come up. And I say, well, instead of always focusing on the death, which I have to deal with my own pets at, you know, times too, you know, and all of us do. My attitude is enjoy the moments. That can be another teaching. In the book, I go through many different teachings that we can learn from the animals. And one of them is the dog doesn't sit there or the cat and go, "Oi, I'm going to die, I'm getting old, I'm stiff." They're just living the moment, being in the moment, and they're adapting to their situation. They're a little stiff, they walk a little bit less, you know, things like that. And so one is to learn from them being in the moment and just loving them for wherever they are at that moment. And loving each moment that they're alive with us. Then when they do pass on, to celebrate, to make sure to grieve, because it's very important. We can use that grieving time with our pets as a real healing time for ourselves. And to acknowledge that and to grieve, but also to mark that time as a time celebration of remembering all your good times with them. And then doing something special at that time, whether it be planting a tree, whether it be making a donation to a humane society. Do something in honor of that pet. So you say, when my best buddy passed on, I made this donation to the local humane society, or I planted this tree that's now growing, and whenever I see it, I think of all our good times, to remember those good times. In addition, there are many different things we can do to help them live a longer, happier, healthier life. You know, with conventional medicine and surgery, you just use drugs to relieve symptoms. But you can use different nutritional supplements. For instance, there's one mentioned in the book, animal superfoods, that you can get that is a whole food concentrate of different nutritional supplement, herbs, oat grass juice powder, blue-green algae, spirulina, as well as different antioxidants and vitamins that seem to help slow down the aging process, that keep them healthier and happier for a much longer time. And the animals thrive and blossom on these. So my attitude is do two things. One, do everything you can holistically, nutritionally, acupuncture-wise to keep them as healthy and happy so they have a longer quality and quantity of their life. And two, to be okay with the aging process, loving them for who they are, wherever they are. And then at the inevitable time of death, to make sure to grieve appropriately, to cry, to not be afraid of that, have support of your friends around, and then also make sure to celebrate and say, we're going to celebrate our life together at this time.
I think that's important. Planting the tree is a really good idea.
Yeah, I've planted trees for all my animals have passed on, and each tree reminds me, and I instantly have memories. Oh, remember when we ran down this field, or we did this together, or when I came home and they just sat in my lap, and it just instantly brings back those memories.
Mm. I did tulips.
Oh, that's
a little
great.
Smaller.
Uh-huh.
In your book, you describe what you refer to as miracles of animal healing. Could you give some examples?
Oh boy, there's so many.
Yeah.
Every day in my practice, my clients come in and say, "This was a miracle. This was a miracle." And what is a miracle? Oftentimes, the miracle is simply that everyone else has said, "There's nothing more we can do for your pet, and you're going to have to either let them live in misery or put them to sleep." And when they see these different alternative therapies work, it is indeed miraculous. And I'll just give you a couple of quick examples. One, when I was on staff at the Animal Medical Center in New York, which is the largest animal hospital in the world, and I was just giving a lecture there to the veterinarians on one acupuncture point called governing vessel 26 right here, which helps stimulates the body's own adrenaline or epinephrine. And I just finished giving a lecture on it, and they rushed in this 12-year-old German Shepherd that had just had surgery for a tumor the day before, and now it went into cardiac arrest and it was dying. And 9 veterinarians jumped on this dog. They intubated it. They started artificial respiration, did electroshock, intracardiac injections, everything like that. And they had an EKG running during this time. And during 5 minutes of trying everything that Western medicine could use, and it was still dead, flat wave on the EKG. So I humbly walked over and said, "Would you mind if I give a try?" And they all looked at me and said, "Sure, the dog's dead, feel free." So they were still breathing for the dog, but I inserted a needle into that acupuncture point, and after about 1-2 minutes of stimulation, all of a sudden the veterinary technician screamed, and she said, "Oh my God, we have blips on the EKG," and the dog started breathing on its own, and it came around. And then
Amazing.
all the veterinarians went into shock when they saw that. That's one example. Another example is something as simple as an old Irish setter that came into me just about 8 months ago, and it couldn't barely walk anymore. And it was knuckling and falling down on its hind legs, and it was arthritic all over. And we did some acupuncture, and just after 3 treatments, the dog was running, playing, jumping again. And then the owner said, "This is incredible. We were going to put this dog to sleep a few weeks ago." And then she said, "By the way, my dog has had colitis and diarrhea despite all medications for the last 13 years. Is there something you can do for that?" And I said, "Well, very simply, I'll use some squash or yams, and oftentimes that resolves that." There are many different approaches I do for colitis in dogs, but I said, before we get involved in something fancy, why don't we just try this? The next treatment, she came in for the next acupuncture treatment and said, "This is miraculous. This is the first time in 13 years this dog has had normal bowel movements, and they've been normal ever since." That's another example. Another example that we go into in the book is there were 2 17-year-old cats that they were litter mates, born, raised together, never been apart a day in their life for 17 years. And then one of them got hit by a car. And broke its pelvis, and we didn't know if it had nerve damage, if it would be able to urinate or defecate. And we had it in the hospital, and we were treating it for shock. And despite everything we were doing, it was stopping eating. It was just going downhill. The owner called up and said, meanwhile, its litter mate, its brother, was at home screaming, crying, looking, searching all over for its litter mate. And I said, "Well, bring it on in." We brought it in, put it in the cage. They both just jumped on each other, started licking, purring, meowing to each other, and within minutes the other cat started eating, and within 2 days of them being together, the cat started walking and getting up and healed completely.
Isn't that wonderful?
So those are just a few examples that we go into in the book, the miracles that each animal has on themselves healing each other, but also the miracles of different alternative therapies and the holistic approach in helping animals heal that couldn't be helped any other way.
Some people believe that the city is not a place to have pets. Would you like to comment on that?
That's a very controversial question, and it really depends upon the people and the type of animal. If you have a big animal that's born to run, that needs to run, and you don't give them access to running, that probably isn't the best place. However, if animals in cities can help. We're living in cities, we have all these barriers against all the other people because everyone's so crowded, and the animals will open up our hearts and give us unconditional love and help open our hearts in the cities, which is so important. So I think they can be very important for people, and if you make sure that you give your animal enough exercise, that you take them out regularly, and that you take them to the park, and they get fresh air, and that they have love with other animals, then it can be an okay spot for them. But it depends upon the animal's personality and your commitment to giving them enough exercise and enough love that they're happy there. So I think with the right animal, a city is a fine environment, and it can be real healing for everyone.
Good. I like to think that they help relieve the stress that city life brings to people too. You go home, here's your dog, here's your cat.
That's right.
Your
So many
hamster.
people in the city, they live alone, they've had a rough day, they come back, and they walk into their apartment, and here's this bundle of love coming up to them, giving them love. What can be more healing than
Can't
that?
beat it. What's the main thing you think we learn from having animal companions?
They are such great teachers. All we have to do is listen. And, oftentimes their teachings are not in English. They're in many deeper levels of communication, from body language to whether you want to call it psychic, but they talk. They talk through body language, they talk through their voice, they talk through love, they talk through all these different levels of communication. And the teachings that they can teach us are joy, compassion, unconditional love, forgiveness, being in the moment. Like a deer doesn't go out and graze in a field and say, oh my gosh, I ate so much today. They live in the moment. They graze, they sleep, they're in the moment. And we can learn that from them and just being there like that. Some examples that I give in the book are, one time I was in the Galapagos Islands and I was snorkeling, and this sea lion comes zipping right up to my mask, within an inch of my mask, stares right at me, and then went and silhouetted my whole body, and then turned around to see if I wanted to play, and start pulling on my flippers to play with it. And it was just being playful and joyful in the moment. And it could have been anywhere in that ocean, and it chose to be with me and play. And the playfulness, the lightheartedness, the joy is something that we, in our stressful lives, can so easily forget. And the animals, the joy in their eyes, they just want to go and play with you. And that's probably one of the best teachings that they can give us, is to be in the moment and to be playful, to appreciate joy, and then the love. If we've had a hard day or a hard month or a hard year, or we just lost someone very dear to us, and they're just giving us that love that we can't get from anyone else.
Pet food. It's a major industry. There are shelves in the supermarkets full of cans of this and boxes and bags of that. What do you feel we really need to change from what we normally practice when we provide pet nutrition for our animal companions?
Well, I put pet foods on a scale of like 1 to 10, as far as 10 being the best quality and 1 being the lowest, okay? And my attitude is very different than many veterinarians, but I feel the best thing you can feed your animal is a homemade, balanced diet. The worst thing you can feed is a homemade, unbalanced diet. if you happen to live on TV dinners and pizza and Pepsi and everything, that's what you're feeding your dog, that's terrible. But if you feed them a homemade balanced diet of vegetables, grains, little meat, and things like that in a balanced way, which I go over some different diets in the book, you see their coats flourish, allergies clear up, different problems clear up. They just get so healthy because so many of the dog foods are processed. They're so processed, and they use everything that's condemned for human consumption. Then they throw in all these artificial flavors, colors, preservatives, and this is food. You know, in Chinese medicine, they talk about you get qi, or a life energy force, from the food you eat. And when something's so processed, there's no more qi in it. Okay, now, many people don't have time to cook for their animals. So my attitude is you compromise there and you just look for some of the best quality dog foods and cat foods that have the highest quality human ingredients. And then you use different supplements like the ones I mentioned in the book that help supplement that with real food supplements that help keep them as healthy and happy as possible.
I agree. I'm a dog soup maker.
That's great.
From your perspective, what vision do you have of the future of veterinary medicine?
To me, the future of veterinary medicine will be to incorporate this holistic approach, looking at the individual animal in their environment and in their own family. And that family includes other pets in the family, children, parents, and then you develop a program that's best to prevent the diseases with good nutrition, exercise, and positive attitudes, and a healthy indoor environment with fresh air and things. And then if you're doing everything you can and then there's still disease, you look at the whole picture of everything that you can use to help bring that animal back into health. And the goal should be to bring the animal into a state of health, into a state of balance, not to just relieve symptoms. And that may include surgery, it may include drugs, it may include acupuncture, herbs, nutrition, chiropractic, nutritional supplements, the whole picture. And that's what I offer my clients, is that whole complete approach. Sometimes I'll recommend surgery, but then after surgery I may use some homeopathic remedies to help them heal faster, or I may use some acupuncture to help them heal faster. It's important to differentiate their homeopathy from herbs, from holistic. Homeopathy is a separate form of medicine using microdoses of various herbs, minerals, plant, and animal products to stimulate the body's own healing systems. Holistic includes the eclectic approach, bringing in all these different modalities, and herbs are using different plants and herbs to help heal at a pharmacologic level.
What do you hope your readers will gain from your book? One main thing.
There's so many messages in the book. I guess the essence of it is that there are many different options that you have in healing. Going again from the different alternative therapies that we mentioned to the love and the spiritual connection. I can't emphasize enough the importance of that spiritual connection between us and our animals, and how that heals not just our animals but also us, and that it goes both ways. And we should look at all these different approaches, and especially love and spiritual connection and the human-animal bond. And the stories in there are just, each story in the book, what I hope people will get out of it is that each story in the book is a teaching for each person. And each animal, what I find is everyone is getting something different out of the book. Each story touches someone differently.
I think that's great. Thank you, Dr. Alan Schoen. We are out of time.
Thank you, Mary.
We've enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for joining us on A Discussion With.
a presentation of the Hennepin County Library.